10 months ago, the Armored Republic YouTube channel released the ultimate EDC chest rig, the Mark I launch. Promptly following, they went silent. Certain videos were released unlisted to answer customer questions and give details on existing products, but the public-facing side of the channel faded into obscurity. Many wondered, why? What files on Pam Bondi's desk rendered AR incapable of continuing the channel? Would it ever come back? What had happened to its hosts? Where will we get our incisive analysis on defense products now that the greatest YouTube channel in history is dead? I'm your host, Logan Reese, and today on Unsolved Mysteries, we take a deeper dive and learn the truth of the Armored Republic YouTube channel.
I could read your thoughts and tell you what you saw and never say a word.
Now, real quick, I know some of you may be wondering, where are David and Steven, the other hosts of the channel? The answer is...
I killed him. I'm kidding.
Relax, liberals. It's called dark humor. So when we're talking about the Mark I, we're really talking about three components that we've put together as a chest rig. We've got the harness, as you can see here, the placard, which can come general purpose or slick, and then the dangler, which can be a med sleeve or a GP pouch. The harness is a very nifty harness because of the fact that it's wide, it's padded, which makes it very comfortable, and it's an X harness which distributes the weight very well in the back. If you're running a rig exclusively, i.e. not on top of a plate carrier or something else, then a harness like this is basically exactly what you want, because you're going to need it to do the heavy work of distributing that load. So I really like this rig for that reason. This harness is very useful. Now, some other things about the harness is it comes with these pull tabs here, which allow you to easily adjust the size of the chest rig. So you can have it big, put it on, and then cinch it down, which is helpful because you don't want this moving around or the weights to become more cumbersome. Another way which you can adjust it is via the placement of the swift clips on the front. These can slip out and then move up or down depending on where you like to carry the chest rig in terms of height on your torso. And then additionally, you can also adjust the X harness in the back so as to change where it sits on your back or how high it's pulling the chest rig up. All of those things make the harness very adjustable and very comfortable, which are the two most important things when you're looking at a securement system for your chest rig. When we're on the subject of harnesses, I also want to talk about whether you should use a harness or a placard system like this if you're running these pouches on a plate carrier. As you can see here, I've got swift clip buckles that are just directly attaching this placard, and then the dangler is dangling from my carrier. You could run these things on an independent harness like this and just slip it over your head after you put your plate carrier on. So what's the difference between those two? Is there a preferential reason why I'm doing this or that? The reason why I'm doing this is because when you have a lot of straps, they have a tendency to get in the way. And if you've got this harness, your plate carrier shoulder straps, your rifle strap, and you've got a backpack, those things can all become quite cumbersome to move around on your shoulders. Additionally, sometimes it just looks better to have it clipped to your plate carrier, which is something that you can take these buckles off and do that directly, as opposed to having the harness on. But on the flip side, if you really like the harness and you just think, this thing's going to stay with me, or I want to be able to take off my plate carrier and keep the rig in certain circumstances, or you like the ease of use of having a plate carrier by itself and then slipping any chest rig you have right on top of it, then a harness might be for you, and you can use it in tandem with the plate carrier and not mess with having to take the swift clips off or any other things. Now let's talk a bit about the placard systems. As you can see here, we've got two different placard systems. We've got the general purpose and we have the slick. The slick is, as you can see, very slick and minimalist. I think it's actually a very aesthetically appealing placard, which is why I like running it on my carriers. It also, like the GP placard, comes with Kydex retention inside. That means that these are not going to fall out, and instead they're going to be easy to access by just pulling up. One thing I will note is that when you first get your chest rig, these Kydex inserts are going to be rather difficult to move around, and it's going to feel like it takes a lot of effort to get your magazines out. That's just a part of it being new, and once you use it and keep the magazines in the Kydex retention inserts, it's going to become less of a problem, and then it'll be a joy to use them. So just keep that in mind when you get the chest rig. Talking about the difference between why you would want a slick placard. You'd want a slick placard mostly if you're looking at some kind of situation where you're dropping to prone. Let's say you and your buddies are getting ambushed and you need to drop to the ground as quickly as possible. In those circumstances, anyone who's been in that situation will tell you that you cannot get to the ground low enough, which means that if you have all of this stuff in front of you, you're going to be a lot more exposed than if you have just a slick placard. And we'll talk a little bit later about how you can get more mags while still maintaining that low profile. The age of the micro rig is over. It's time to be a real man. Carry all your weight like this. Pack in the back, pack in the front. 50 mags. That's a man's combat load. But that's something that is worth considering. Additionally, if you have the weight closer to your chest as opposed to further out, sometimes that can feel better in terms of weight distribution as opposed to carrying it far out like this. On the flip side though, the general purpose placard is very useful. It's something where you can carry quite a lot of goodies with you. For example, if you're on the range and you have the general purpose placard, I have gone full days just carrying all of my ammo in here and then using that loose ammo to fill up the magazines that I have here. Additionally, the general purpose placard can carry admin stuff. It can carry ammo in the form of 2 magazines. It can carry medical if you so desire. Both of these are great options. I think if I were running this solely as a chest rig, I would opt for the GP placard version. And then if I'm running this on a carrier, I would opt for the slick. Now let's talk about danglers. So there's 2 danglers that you can choose from. There is the GP dangler, which I'm wearing on my carrier. And then there's also the med sleeve dangler. The GP dangler is pretty self-explanatory. It's a very nifty little pouch because you can have 2 compartments, one that's bigger, one that's smaller. In my personal compartment here, I carry things like an extra pair of gloves or a multi-tool or extra ear protection, things like that. Not the giant ear protection, more like foamies or just something for a backup if I'm caught in a situation where I forgot ear protection or I don't have them. So the GP pouch is really nice. Another touch is that it comes with these elastic grommets. As you can see, I'm stretching them incredibly far, and those allow you to attach things like tourniquets or maybe a flashbang right here, easy to access. When people talk about tourniquet placement, they often discuss there's a V from your shoulders down to your hips, essentially, and it's useful to have a tourniquet in that space for easiest access possible. So it's something to consider. This is like the video game animation when your character doesn't have the thing you're trying to get. It's like tourniquet button. Talking about the med sleeve, this is a neat little product that makes it very easy to have an IFAC's worth of contents easy to access. The way that it works is you've got a nylon sleeve here or Cordura sleeve, and then you've got inside of it this little contraption, which uses elastic and Velcro to keep together an IFAC kit or an individual first aid kit. That's very nifty, very easy way to connect your medical to your kit. I personally recommend that you get this and that you either have it on your chest rig in the front or at least have one in the back. I'm using an older system for carrying medical, which is a lower back IFAC connected to my belt, but this is just a little bit easier and it hangs at a place that's a little bit easier to access as well. The med sleeve is really quite a great system. So if I were running this on a carrier, I would probably use the GP dangler in the front, med sleeve in the back, and if I'm running just the rig and I had to choose between the two, I would make sure I have medical on me. And so if this is the way that I do it, that's a good way to do it. Now let's come to that part of the video. Let's talk about the big boogeyman of any tactical product launch, which is use case. Because it's pretty difficult to talk about use case if you're not focused on police or military operators. Because if you're talking use case, then that means that you're likely using guns. And if you're talking to citizens, that can be a taboo subject. In what circumstances are you using your guns? Which then leads people to discuss stuff like, I'm going to use this chest rig for home defense. Not quite. I'm not going to try and sell you this chest rig on home defense. Or people say stuff like, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, which is kind of a cop-out because that's literally true for everything in the entire world. So why do you as a citizen need a chest rig? That's what we're going to talk about. First off, I want to discuss it as a complete set, harness and all, not relating to the body armor. Why would you want this? Well, the first one and this is a more serious one than people may think, is the training value of having something like this versus if you go out to the range with your rifle and you don't have a chest rig, then you're going to have stuff back at the table and it's going to be a completely different experience than if you have just one piece of kit. And if you're going to have a piece of kit, this is the main rule that I would give you if you're using it for training. Get kit that motivates you to get out there and do the training. A personal example of this, I did a lot of dry fire and a lot of training with the Glock 19, and then I felt like I didn't enjoy the Glock 19 enough to enjoy shooting as a whole, and so I got a Beretta 92 because I enjoyed that platform a lot more. I thought it was beautiful, and that motivated me to get even better with my pistol shooting because I enjoyed the platform. In the same way, if you don't like just carrying a rifle in a box with some mags in it to the range, and you want to have a more holistic training experience, something like this could be incredibly useful. The next thing, when we're discussing micro rigs, is very limited response situations. So if you're looking at a direct action kind of situation or an infantryman kind of situation, something more military, you're probably going to need more than 3 mags. Personally, I like to have my mags facing up and sticking out. Fastest reload possible. It's the nanoseconds that count. Or if you want to take it to another level, keep it in your gun. And if you happen to be a crazy man and carry a ginormous load, keep your second mag in your hand, ready to go. But if you're responding to some kind of active shooter situation, for instance, then 3 mags is probably sufficient, particularly if they're rifle mags. If they're pistol mags, you're going to want more because it's really hard to hit stuff with a pistol. But this is likely sufficient as a quick shooter response type kit. Another possible use for a micro rig is low visibility kind of situations. This is something that you could slip under a shirt, particularly in the slick variation, a lot easier than an entire body armor kit, which could be very useful for situations that involve getting out into a dangerous situation where you need to make sure that you're not identified as a combatant. Now let's talk about the usefulness of the Mark I system when used as a placard and dangler on a body armor kit. Now, in this context, you're looking at definitely a more militaristic situation. That's not to say that this isn't something citizens could use. Citizens may need in some kind of balkanized situation to engage in conflicts where they have a more military type kit, potentially. You might have an October 7th situation where you got terrorists paragliding into your city and you need to respond to them with a lot of ammunition and a lot of gear. That's also a possibility if you're looking at sleeper cell activation and stuff like that. Generally speaking, citizens are going to be benefited from more low-vis setups, but there's nothing to say that this kind of setup is not still practical. Let's talk about the use case. A lot of times when you're looking at a kit like that, you're going to need a full combat load. People talk about you need 12 mags, you need 10 mags, you need 5 mags at least. This is my safety, and this is my combat load. People might question having 3 mags across the front like this instead of more. The way I see it is, if you've got 3 mags across the front, that keeps your front profile pretty slick. And then if you need to add more ammo, then you can do that in the form of wings, danglers, and your belt. So let's look at, if I put a wing here and a wing here, I can double stack those because the angle makes it so that I can maintain that slick profile. And now I go from 3 on the front to 7 on the front. Imagine I get one of those nifty danglers that can go behind my GP dangler, and now I've got 2 more mags, now that's 9. If I've got 1 in the gun, that's 10. If I've got 2 on my belt, that's 12. Which means that the Mark I system is actually very good for starting to stack all of your pouches and begin to build a holistic combat load setup. That's how I've used it over the past year, and I think that it's really the best choice for a lot of people if you're looking to expand your kit. Let's talk real quick about a reason to not get a micro rig. And that is something people used to discuss, and then it kind of actually led to the downfall of it being popular. That is weight savings. So when you're on that infill, gentlemen, it's important to remember ounces turn to pounds, and pounds turn to bigger pounds. If you're looking at making a kit that is prepared for combat, you're not supposed to be concerned about weight savings when it comes to ammo or water or medical. Those are things where you're going to need as much as you need, and trying to save weight on them is typically a bad idea. If you've got 3 mags and you're looking to go infill somewhere, that's likely not going to be a sufficient load. 3 mags might be good for a very limited time situation, like a shooter response, or maybe if you're a Navy SEAL and you're going and killing al-Baghdadi, then 3 mags may be sufficient for you. But in the majority of situations, if you've got a full kit, make sure you have more mags. Don't try and cut on weight by cutting your ability to be lethal. Well, gentlemen, that concludes everything about the Mark I. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. If you think the Mark I could help you become a more prepared citizen, you can check out the link in our description. You can get it on pre-order right now. We're getting them in, and they'll ship in November. Thank you. This is Logan Reese, and Armored Republic. There is no king but Christ. Yo, dog. I heard you like Mark I's. So, I'm stuck. Yo, dog. I heard you like micro rigs. So I got a micro rig for your micro rig.